It's the World Pokemon League, #1 draft league you could ever see. Getting stronger, yeah, I'm building up my own team. Gotta be the champion, the one you can't defeat. It's the World Pokemon League, #1 draft league you could ever see. Getting stronger, yeah, I'm building up my own team. Gotta be the champion, the one you gotta beat.
All right, welcome to another episode of Jason and Jay. What's our podcast called again?
It's been a while.
Yeah, we recorded long time ago. We shouldn't take
like
weeks
a whole,
off.
week and a half ago.
Well, okay, for what it's worth, spoiler alert, everybody. Plug your ears if you don't want to hear what's coming later. We play better when we have less time off.
Apparently,
I think so.
I think that's the thing
reason.
to learn from this.
I think
Yes.
I think the owner needs to do a better job of running it, and then we will benefit. Yeah. So Jay, how you doing? I know how you're doing.
Just swimmingly.
Swimmingly. We should talk about these matches. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are almost at an end of the season. We have 2 weeks to go. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I know, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's been a lot of fun this season. Yes, my season. You know what? My season came to an end last night. Not last night. When did we play? A while back. Not last night. My season came to an end, but it came against a very good player, and I do not feel bad at all. I felt bad how I lost because I thought I could have done better, but in the end, I'm very, very happy for my opponent. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about my game, as short as it was. We're going to talk about Jay's game.
As short as
it wasn't short. It was interesting. It was actually kind of short now that I think of it. Not as short. I win for worst and shortest match. You are second worst, which is the order we're going to do all of these in, by the way, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, obviously.
Completely unbiased. Third match we're going to talk about the well-played Space City PC versus Dublin Delmise. Then we're going to get into the last match played in the week, which was literally last night. I can actually say last night because it was. Sao Paulo Extrails versus the Distortion Zone. What a hell of a match. So we'll get into that one.
Obviously the best match of the weekend.
Best for last.
Clearly.
And they didn't disappoint the first time they played either in the regular season.
No.
So that was actually really cool that we got another one. And another one. Neither of us could help ourselves. This is actually going to be a fairly, if we don't spend as much time on this intro, this is going to be a fairly short one because we're running out of games to talk about, guys. We only have 2 matches, 4 matches. 3 would be weird.
Wow.
4 matches to talk about. 2 of them mattered. And 2 of them
were entertaining.
And 2 mattered, but less. Yeah, so we'll just dive right into it. We're going to do the recaps for round 1 of the playoffs, the 4 matches that happened. We're going to talk about the playoff tree, and as a result, we're going to get into the round 2 previews because there's only 2 matches to talk about next week. It's weird how it's half. Yeah.
How that works.
It's weird how numbers work. They control us somehow. Yeah. So
yet they're not really a thing.
So everybody... Before we get... Okay, let's do worst match.
Too psychological.
We're going to do worst match of the week, and I want everyone to know this is very, very hard for me to do. I am very competitive. I try very, very hard and put in a lot of time. So I want to give as good analysis on my own match as I would on someone else's. So I'm going to be critical of my own match. I'm going to basically talk about where the match was lost, what could have been done better, and things like that. One of those 2 things will take longer than the other when it comes to better and worse things. So Great Marsh Gastrodons was the 6th seed. I was the 3rd seed, and as you may have already told, I actually lost the Toronto 6. The Toronto 6 lost, and Great Marsh Gastrodons is moving on to round 2. How do you ask did such things happen? I'm convinced it happened midweek before the match was played.
Yes. Possibly mid-season. I would argue mid-season.
Before the season started, we knew I was going to make it to the first round. That was my ceiling.
No, I think week 4 when he picked up Spectre and Naganadel.
Oh, that's nicer.
And that is all he used against you, I believe.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's all coming back to me now.
2. Yes, no, that was a brutal game.
What happened, guys? I'm gonna start back to in prep. So because it doesn't really matter anymore. No one's prepping against me this season again. So Jay will attest to this. Prep was not going well at all. There were very many scenarios where I was losing. I was trying a lot of different things. He had such a good team on, like, a good roster, and not to mention he's just such a good player too. So it helps when a good player has an okay roster. You can kind of find holes, but when a good player has a good roster, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Right.
Yeah, midweek, I knew that Naganadel was a big problem. I knew that his fast mode was a big problem, and Naganadel was a part of it. I would basically threw in the white towel midweek and saying, I got to try some random stuff to make this work because I'm not beating him straight up. I might be able to catch him off guard, maybe. So enter Perish Trap. No one got to see it.
Great Marsh's favorite.
Yeah. But that's what happens when you see two ghosts and you see something that ruins your Perish Song user, such as Naganadel. On the other side of the field, it's kind of hard to bring it, but when you see that. But again, very, very good prep from my opponent. He recognized what there's nothing I could do about, and he brought a foolproof strategy and executed it very, very well. I deserve to lose both of those games, but how did they go? Leads, the 6 that he brought, I'll actually bring up the 6 that he brought. I only really remember 2. Is there a reason why, Jay? So, okay, let me see if I can remember. Jay, tell me if I'm wrong. He brought Spectrier, Naganadel, obviously, Gourgeist.
Yes.
He brought, don't tell me. He brought, I actually can't remember. Not gonna lie, I actually can't. Yeah, I can't. What are they?
What's in their combo of his? What's in their combo of his that we were worried about?
Oh, Indeedee was there. Indeedee was there for sure.
He was there. Yeah. Well, fast mode.
What was that fast? Not Halucha.
No.
All right, Jay, just tell me. Everyone's on the edge of their chair, including me.
Stoutland
Gigalith. That was another one that was giving me a problem on the slow mode prep. When I was trying to deal with his slow. Can I beat him in slow mode? No. Okay. Can I beat him in fast mode? No. Okay. Well, is there anything I could do? And then we tried testing with some Perish Trap stuff. I'm like, well, at least I'm winning sometimes. So I am not surprised that a loss was the result. I'm surprised at how quickly it was a result. I had a horrible play turn 1 of game 1. So he leads Spectre and Naganadel. I was not expecting the Bulldoze weakness policy, not going to lie. So very, very good to catch me off guard with that. Activating weakness policy is not the most unorthodox thing. So I guess I could have been more aware of it or seen it as an option, but I wasn't thinking of that. But yeah, then he decides to Bulldoze. I figured that, you know what, I can't set Perish Trap. I can't set Perish Song turn 1 because of the team construct I saw. So let's go for my secondary offense lead with Glacier, and I believe it was Meowstick, wasn't it?
Yes.
I think it was Meowstick. So the goal is to set screens and then, just kind of let Glacier be Glacier. So I decided to I figured a Max Dragon was going into the partner slot, so I decided to hard switch into Primarina, but the Max Dragon after the Bulldoze weakness policy activation went into the Glacier slot, made it no longer on the field, for lack of better words.
It was quickly gone.
Yeah, so it was a very, very risky
and which
move.
was your only, because it was really your only check for Naganadel. The only thing you really had to hit Naganadel hard.
I didn't know what to do, and that's it. I didn't know he was going to activate policy. I just knew he was going to hit something really hard.
Right.
And I didn't see any other way. I was like, do I set a screen? No, I think he still kills. Do I do this? No, I think he still... Once policy went up, I'm like, yeah, this is over. It's just, can I kill anything? The answer was no, I couldn't kill anything, so I lost 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
Then game 2 comes around, and I actually... Kate, again, I'm trying to give a non-biased opinion. I actually thought it was a good adjustment. I do.
It was.
I don't think I had any other option. Berserker had weakness policy as well, which is also activated by a Bulldoze.
Yes.
I did have something with Quash that made the Bulldoze go later, so I thought it might have, hey, the Bulldoze goes off after, he doesn't get the boost, I survive, maybe I can kill in return. Then the Bulldoze does enough damage to KO his own Pokemon. Unfortunately, it survived with 2%. 2%.
which was a roll. It was about a 50-50 roll, I believe.
They
But,
suck.
uh,
That's Pokemon. But again, the strategy he had was just so good. I was on my heels, and I don't know if I would have won a game 3, even if I pulled off a game 2 win. He's a good enough player to adjust and make me suffer. So, but you know what though? I ended up losing because the policy was off at the end of the turn, and then Morpeko had a -1, so now its Quash was slower than Spectre, so there wasn't a whole lot I could do there. So the game was basically lost. I think my sayings, Jay, are coming back to bite me, aren't they? From the season.
Which one this time? Which one this one?
I have many sayings, and one of them I say is, you can't win a game turn 1, but you can sure as hell lose one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember me saying that, but that was definitely the case. And we talk about it usually with the beat up strat and activating policy and things like that. And there was it wasn't pretty, guys. But you know what though? I have one thing to say on a personal level. I appreciate everybody in that chat because that was one of the hardest things I've had to do was go into that chat and face the music after.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Everybody was very kind. Everybody was knew that I would have felt like garbage, and I did. But I feel like Great Marsh, just a class act all around. Excellent player, excellent team, and I think he's probably the favorite to win. Not because he beat me, but because I think his team is just very, very good, and I think he's just hungry and
Well, we talked the back half of the season. I mean, after week 4, he was sitting at 2-2. He's lost 1 game since then.
Let alone a match.
He is the hottest team right now, and until I see otherwise, I don't see anything stopping him.
He's the one to beat. And not to mention, we'll get to another person he doesn't have to face in the next round of the playoffs, but that's a little bit of a spoiler for later. But so to put to bed my season, I don't want. Okay, there's a couple things. I don't want to say there's nothing I could have done. I think there might have been something I could have done. I didn't see it, but I tried to go for a gamble because I only gamble really when I have no choice. Beating him straight up was just not going to happen. It just wasn't. I tried a lot of other strategies; they just weren't working in prep, and we weren't even doing stress tests like we like to do. It was just like by the way, when I prep, guys, I like to build a team, try it against generic things the other team does, see how it does. Can you stop basic strats? Okay, cool. Next step. Then you go to different strategies. Okay, can you beat them? Awesome. Now I'm gonna build a team to specifically beat your team. That is designed, I know you're 6, I'm going to build a team to beat your 6, including the items. Like, if you have Mental Herb, I'm not going to taunt you. If you have a certain Pinch Berry, I'm not going to use that attack against you. Things like that. So it's basically creating a worst-case scenario for your team. How do you do? I didn't get past step 1.
And not to mention, he brought the stress test team.
He did! Oh my God!
Yes, it was...
But for him to recognize that was a very, very good 6 to bring against me is just so good to catch. And Jay, you've had weeks like that too, where prep goes well, you have a strat, it goes off, nothing scary about it, and you just win, and you're just like, thank you very much, next week.
Right.
And I think that was one of those weeks that he had, and I'm kind of jealous. But yeah, that puts the end of my season. Best season I've ever had. 6-2 was my final, and round 1 was the furthest I've gotten. I've made the playoffs before, but that was one of the worst losses I've ever had.
It was tough to watch.
It hurt. I felt so hopeless, man. It didn't feel good at all. But there is, like I said in last week's WPL Academy, there is joy in your opponent's win. And I'm really, really glad that he gets to move on because he's just such a class act, such a good player, and he's due. So I'm rooting for you, buddy. Because if you win, then I can say that I would have beaten everybody else, and no one can prove otherwise.
That's right.
But moving on to the next match, thank God, Jay, that was hard. It wasn't as bad as we think it's going to be, though, so yours is going to be quick and painless. Moving on to Cascade Illusions versus the new look Spider Phantom Troop.
That's right.
What do I mean by new look? New player.
New coach.
New coach.
New in-game manager, so to speak.
New in-game manager. If anybody didn't catch it, we had a couple people ask, why is Slick 36 playing for Octo? Well, Octo did have some time at school that he had to spend. He had no time, actually. That's probably what it was. That he had to start dedicating to more important things, and I definitely appreciate him coming forward. And it's very, very hard. I think the one person that didn't want to do it was him. So when I saw him come to me, I already knew that there was no convincing him otherwise. He had already not made the decision, but already weighed everything out, and it must have been really hard. So I was like, yeah, let's go to plan B. And Slick 36 took over. That was the plan from the beginning. And round one of the playoffs, you better be ready, right?
Right.
Not to mention the defending champion. It's like, hey, by the way, I know you haven't played in a year. Here's a team you've never used. You didn't draft. A complex team from a complex player. And by the way, you're facing in the playoffs, so do or die, and you're facing the defending champion.
Right.
That is a whole lot of stress.
Yeah. No, and he came in and he smashed.
Went to work.
Went to work.
It feels better when you do it yourself, Jay. I'm not going to lie. I did mine myself, and it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. So it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. That's
right. No, I mean, turn one was a somewhat obvious play. My strategy, Charizard, get the sun up and go to town. His Togekiss was like, well, I have ancient power. Yes. And Max Togekiss, which I knew going into it, Max Togekiss was a problem for my team. I was just kind of hoping it was not a Max Togekiss. But he led it next to Comfey. Not Comfey. Cottonee. He led it next to Cottonee, and right from that moment, I was like, oh, this could be bad. But I mean, I had lived some Max Rockfalls off of Ancient Power in prep a couple of times. But this one I didn't. It was a roll technically. I think it was like an 80% chance in his favor. So it's not like it definitely wasn't a hacks thing. But getting your Dynamax blown apart from turn one is not a start that you want to see. And kind of went downhill from there.
That turn one hurt me.
Game two was better. He outplayed me game two, frankly. I made a very risky play to try to get back into it. Called it. Yeah. He called it perfectly. In hindsight, I was like, yeah, that was a really obvious play on his part. I just kind of had to hope he decided to Quake again instead of Geyser, switching in my Charizard. But he didn't. Rhyperior almost brought it back. It came down to 1v1. It really came down, actually, to if he was Guerrilla Tactics and was Choice Banded instead of Choice Scarfed, or even Life Orb, anything that's not Choice Scarf, I win that game, I think. Barring, obviously, a miss. Like a heat wave
at the end. Yeah.
But
did get really close at the end.
He was, he wasn't. He had Protect on his Darmanitan, which I believe the Sand Chip killed my Charizard, and Rhyperior was too slow to take out the Darmanitan by itself. So,
yeah, with game one, the star of the show being Togekiss, having two, I would say those are almost opposites. They were both special, so that was So they're similar in that sense, but at the same time, the Togekiss, it just hits completely differently than that Wishy-Washy does. So right. Wishy-Washy just being as bulky as it is, I think he got Trick Room up game 2, didn't he? No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. But Wishy-Washy is just with its stats are just so high. Yeah.
I found out that second game too that Wishy-Washy was faster than Rhyperior, which I didn't think he was. So that was
not naturally, no.
Didn't.
So
yeah, he must have had a little bit of speed in there, I guess. He did set up Trick Room at one point with Indeedee, but that was after the Wishy-Washy had already gone down, I think.
I'm actually going through the game right now. I don't see Trick Room at all in game 2.
He sets Trick Room with Indeedee at some point.
Maybe game 1.
Maybe it was game 1. I don't remember. It all blurs together. I lost both.
Believe me. Yeah, game 1 he said it. I was going to say believe me.
Okay.
I am one to forget about games. But you know what, though, man? Like, game 1 was not a blowout. Like, you won 1-0. In game 2, he won 1-0 again. So like you for losing your Dynamaxmon game 1, or sorry, turn 1, to bring it back to a 1-0 win is actually that's hard to do, man. Like you kept pushing, you didn't give him any wiggle room to, he didn't give you you fought back, and you didn't make it easy for him. Some guys would just coast at that point, but that's when good players kind of come back in, but it looked like he was definitely pushing right to the end, and he was rewarded with a win. So,
yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week on the WPL Academy portion. I mean, I'm never gonna give up. I'm gonna try to do, and I'll make the play. I'll be like, oh, this is the only way I come back in this, or let me inch back, and if he trips, I'll be right there to take the race. But obviously he didn't in this case, and was able to still win. But yeah. Never. I mean, that goes to show you too. Just don't give up in a match. There's always a way you can get back into it.
Yep.
Especially early. Obviously, I didn't, but he played well. I mean, I was like I said, I was ready for if he tripped up, and he never did. And props to him. And he played wonderfully with a new team, with a team that he's not used to. And I know Octo helped him out, at least a fair amount. He said that after the match, and yeah, no, he played it well though. I heard Octo was going a little crazy in the chat. I can only imagine in watching somebody else play your team would also be really hard. So
yeah, I don't know who wanted to win more, him or Slick playing the team.
Yeah,
I think it was almost just like he was like a coach on the sidelines that was just cheering his player on, and like there was a lot of like, oh my God, do this! No, that's not what we went over, and things like that. But yeah, he's just so passionate about the game. So it sucks that he had to see his season come to an end as a player, but now he moves on as a coach for his existing team. I think he's still definitely invested in his team. So I don't think we've seen the last of Octo this season, or even in future seasons. So Slick, congratulations, man. That's a tall order, and you filled it for sure.
Yes.
So that moves on to the. See, that wasn't so bad, right, Jay?
Well, I'm glad it's over.
Well, actually, I do want to talk about one thing though. Your season, you ended up finishing 5-3, right?
No, I was 6-2 still.
Were you 6-2? I thought you lost.
Yeah, I was the bottom of the 6-2 team. So
I think that was it. Yeah, you were 6-1 going into the last week, and then
because I lost the first and the last week. I won all the weeks in between.
So here's my question for you: was that your best regular season?
Yes.
Hey, there you go. It's a good season. Well, and then first round.
I would argue it was my best regular season. I would argue if it was my best season. In fact, arguably it was my worst season. So
before we put to bed our seasons entirely, how do you feel about your season? Without taking into consideration losing and stuff like that, do you feel like you played well? Do you feel like you drafted the team you wanted? Is there any advice you'd give to your future self? Things like that, what you would do differently?
So I guess my summary of my season, and I know we talked a little bit about it after the loss. I didn't particularly like my draft strategy going into it. I was having a sort of writer's block, I would say. I couldn't find anything that I was excited about. I pieced together a team that I thought would work. Got sniped a couple times in the draft, but I don't think they changed a ton. In fact, actually, I think I somewhat liked the team I ended up with a little bit better than I probably would have anyway. I thought I played well. I mean, I went 6-2. I had to play at least somewhat well.
Yep.
I think the back half of the season, I was another thing that I was getting a little bit burned out. And I think that's really hard to especially going into prepping and stuff like that. You're like, okay, I got to do this again, which I didn't have the season before. So, all in all, like I think I played well. I drafted an okay team. I don't think it was a bad team. I don't think it was a great team. And I made do with what I had, and I did well with it. And I remember saying at the beginning of the season that I think I'll make the playoffs, but I don't think I'll go far with this team in the playoffs. And that's exactly what happened. I think I called it pretty accurately. I made the playoffs, and pretty handily, I'd say, and got knocked out round 1. So the season went about exactly as I predicted it would go. Honestly speaking.
Okay, so in the end, like, disappointment is more so. You're not really disappointed. Well, obviously you want better for yourself, but like in the end, it went exactly the way you thought it was going to go. So,
Yeah, and I'm a really
course,
hopeful. Just my own personality. Like I'm a very hopeful person. So even though I can go into a season thinking, "Hey, I don't know if the season's going to go super well," you start thinking, you start looking at yourself. Hey, I'm 6-1. I could get it nice in the playoffs. Hey, I can still make a run here. So I mean, obviously, it's a little disappointing. Nobody, I think, likes losing, especially in the playoffs. But yeah, like you said, I had my expectations lower this season, and like last season, I was really excited about my team.
You had a very, very, very good team.
I loved my draft. Everything went perfectly. I was really excited about it, and I thought I could go far with it, and I did.
You won.
And this season, yeah.
Yay.
This season, I wasn't as excited about it. I thought I could do well, but not great. I thought I'd go out early in the playoffs, and that's what happened. So apparently, I'm just really good at predicting what I'm going to do.
Next season, make sure you predict better things for you. Then dream big.
Yes. And draft a team that you're excited to play with.
Yes, that's another thing. Like when you pick a team that's just good, there's something about are you looking forward to playing it? I think that's another thing too. I was really excited about. Oh, how was my season? You ask. Great setup, Jay. Great, beautiful setup. I think I had a much better season than I thought I was gonna have. I didn't expect 6-2 in any way. I didn't think I was gonna do this well. I wanted to make the second round. Didn't happen. But going back to you were talking about team composition and draft and things like that. I was very excited about my draft. And Jay, you helped me, like talk things out, and we came up with a couple ideas and things like that. But you could tell that I was actually excited about using my team, right?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I enjoyed prepping every week. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? This. I have all these.
Like, oh, I could try this strategy this week. Oh, I could do this. Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt last season, and I didn't have that gusto this season. And yeah, it's a lot more fun to play when you love your team. And yeah, so what would you say? So how far? Like, what was your expectations going into the season?
Expectations. I kind of always thought that I was like an average to maybe on a good day above average player. I never thought I'd be anything great. I thought that my season went very well. A lot of things went well. I feel like I made a lot of really nice plays where at the end of the match I was like, I'm really happy with this. Like I thought that was really cool, man. Like I didn't know I could do that. But when you put in the time, you reap the benefits a lot of the time, right? So if you do good prep, you do a lot of testing, things like that. You'll surprise yourself if you put in the time. So I felt like I put in the time and reaped the benefits, but I did not expect 6-2 at all. Like I also didn't expect to lose to you as badly as I did. but yeah, like when it comes to the playoffs, I figured if I could make it, anything could happen. Was I surprised I got knocked out in the first round? No. Would I have been surprised if I won? No. So I would say I had fun this season. It would have been nice to improve. I always like to build on a previous season. So am I disappointed? Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
I'd say a little. But the regular season was a lot of fun. And I think that is what I remember. Obviously, the big games and stuff like that, if they're not... I like remembering good reads, good strats. Hey, remember when this happened? And stuff like that. Like, I think one of the games I remember was Seattle because, there was a lot of dialogue and stuff like that. We were talking back and forth, so that was a memorable one. Yours and mine was a lot of fun as well, even though I lost pretty badly. But those are the ones I remember.
That was a fun one to prep for sure. Like just knowing because we do help each other prep so much that like the fact that we didn't have each other made it that much more like.
Oh, it sucked.
I go.
Guys,
Jay, what would you do against this team?
Oh yeah, like when it's like you're not doing it like Jay does. Help me. Help me. And it's just like, I'm not Jay. I know you're not. Yeah, I feel like I suffered from not having my regular go-to prep guy to kind of talk some sense into me rather than anything else. Like I feel like I brought the wrong team. I don't know. I need you a lot, Jay, in my life. Never leave. No, but yeah, that was As for the season, I think it was a lot of fun. I don't regret anything. Would have been nice to obviously have better results. But again, both opponents of ours are very, very good players. Both deserve to be in the finals. Well, not finals, semifinals. Not facing each other, but they're both on red side, blue side.
Yeah, at least.
Go no side.
Yeah.
No side.
Go season 5 prep side.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna make a channel season 5 prep, which we're gonna get into later. But those are the two matches. The next match we're gonna go to is Space City PC versus Dublin Delmise. One of the more interesting matches that we are looking forward to, because Space City has not lost since I think maybe week 2. I think. When did he lose against B Rich?
It's been a while. It's been
a long time. Like, if we have to talk about when was the last time he lost, it's been a while. But I remember Space City was really nervous about this match because he knew that Dublin was a tough opponent. He wasn't going to bring the same team that he beat earlier in the season, because he did face him and win, and he won. But I think, again, Space City is just playing so well, and just has such a really good roster. We were talking about that with Great Marsh, and like now that he made a couple moves. But I think Space City is just, that Umbreon's just doing so well for him. Metagross, Finny, Mianshao was a really nice pickup, but it was just really the three that kind of took over. The Umbreon, Metagross, Finny, they just kind of won the whole week for him. I think Lex...
because just from a typing perspective, there's nothing that does well against all of those.
No.
No, there just isn't. One of those three is going to wall you, and you won't be able to take it down.
Yeah, not to mention the Umbreon. Which we'll get into after. So game 1, we saw Lex try to go for a Dynamax Incineroar, which was Dynamax Weakness Policy Incineroar, which was really creative, really neat, and ironically enough, was actually on Space City's team last season and did run a Weakness Policy Incineroar last season, I believe. I could be wrong. No, that was the season before, wasn't it? When he had Rillaboom Incin. That must have been season 2.
I think it was season 2, yeah.
I think it was season 2. So, and he did run that. But this game 1 actually came down to, I thought Space City was out of it, but that Umbreon is just so hard to kill when you don't have something to really knock it on its butt, I guess, or knock it out. But Mudsdale definitely has a tool in its arsenal to take care of that in Body Press, and it didn't have it. It didn't have it. It did only use high horsepower and heavy slam the entire match, so we didn't even see what the other two moves were. It just kept on high horsepowering, and I really wanted to see that Body Press, because a stamina build, getting those defense boosts from any contact, or not contact, any damaging move whatsoever, boost your defense. So Body Press would have been so nice there.
And really, it would have been arguably the perfect counter for Umbreon, because Umbreon isn't going to do a ton of damage to it using either Snarls or Foul Plays, because boosting your defense. So if you're up against an Umbreon, you're going to
win that exchange most of the time.
You're going to be getting hit a lot, and you're going to be hitting them a lot. And so the stamina boost, Body Press is super effective. It's the perfect counter for Umbreon, and I guess it just didn't have it. Like I said, we don't know what those other two moves are, and I'm really curious what they were. I have to assume Rock Slide was probably one of them, and maybe Protect or something. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I was thinking maybe Assault Vest, but which also gave me more of a reason to believe it would have a fighting move, even close combat or something. But usually Body Press is the way to go. I'm watching it right now. Its defense got to +5, +6 eventually in the end. The match went 24 turns. Everybody.
Yeah.
So
which I think Umbreon was the last one left, starting at turn 8.
Let me go back.
No, starting at turn 6. 5. Holy crap! I'm going back up here too. Yeah. So Metagross died turn 4. Turn 5. Metagross died turn 5.
And then Umbreon
and Umbreon was all by itself turn 6 through turn
24. Yeah, and we got to record all those support moves too. All blah 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 turns of them. But yes. Umbreon just making a better case for it. I think it's on the MVP voting right now. So I wouldn't be surprised. One of the most valuable Pokemon in WPL history. So, but that was game 1. Game 2 was a lot closer, I remember. But I think a weakness policy went off. It wasn't as close as actually game 1, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, it was a
It didn't
2-0
end as
win.
close there. So the interesting thing with game two was actually tricking the choice scarf onto Umbreon.
Was a really
Could
good
have
play.
been a very good play. Unfortunately for Lex, he choiced it. He locked it into Snarl
Oh
with
no.
three special attackers on his side of the field, and so he could just never get leverage. And Umbreon just sat there snarling the rest of the game, and he was switching out. He was trying to make something work, and he never could because he didn't bring. If he had Mudsdale in the back, you're like, okay, that I don't
Maybe,
care if you're
yeah.
locked into Snarl. I'm just going to start, boosting my attack and stuff. But yeah, it was just kind of unfortunate timing because if he baby doll eyes and gets locked into baby doll eyes, then he's gonna have to switch out, and then now Lex gets position. But the fact that he was locked into Snarl and with what Lex had in the back, it handcuffed Lex more than I think he planned on it
Yeah,
happening.
there was a little bit of unluck there, like locking into that move. But I wouldn't say it would be, now that I think of it, locking into a move that it's probably going to use. It's not the worst thing in the world. But making it not be able to heal, that's something.
Yeah,
So that's probably what the game plan was. But I did notice the Porygon 2 having Trace was interesting as well. I know download can be devastating sometimes when it gets the +1 right on entry. So and I know that thing can it goes from a support mon to holy crap, I'm Dynamaxing it mon. And he did Dynamax it game 2. It's just because of all those snarls, it got the -1, and then Metagross was in the back. Space just had such a good strategy. You have a very like utility based lead in your Mienshao with Fake Out and Knockoff, things like that. And then you have your Umbreon with it just to lower stats, heal, make it such a problem. And then Finny Metagross coming in the back, and you're just throwing the towel at that point. You're just like,
right.
I can't even break this lead. And if you do break the lead, which he eventually did, now you have this absolute literal juggernaut, because it's called Juggernaut, I noticed. Gets the weakness policy and just goes off. So again, great work by Space City PC. Par for the course for the season, isn't it? Or par for the
Yes,
season.
I mean that's kind of what he's done to kind of bullied everybody in that sense all year, and yeah, not much changed here. Lex was just kind of the next victim,
Yep.
unfortunately for him.
Yeah, it
And
sucks, man.
unfortunately for me, because he was my pick to win it all
Yeah,
this
and
season.
that's when your predictions come to an end. You had the last one going. Yeah. But it was a good pick, though. Lex is definitely a very good player. Like he made it the second round last season, and I was hoping he was going to build on this season as well. But yeah, I think just such a really good season. I always thought he had an interesting team. He ended up trading from my Rotom, and he used it, so that was actually kind of cool to see him bring it. I was really excited to see it, and it actually took out the Metagross in game 1, which was cool to see with the foul play.
Yep.
Yeah, just the train goes on for Space. So, but on to the last and final match of the week. What a doozy. It was Salpello Excadrills versus the Distortion Zone. Goes the distance, goes all 3 games. Vitor ends up taking game 1 with I think it was the Zapdos put in most of the work, right?
Well, not really. Like, game one was interesting because they both Dynamax turn one, and like their Dynamaxes didn't do a whole lot. They kind of sat there and smacked each other for a minute. They were getting max airstreams off. They were just kind of like trying to play the speed game, the speed war, but both of them weren't really doing a whole lot of damage either. Um, but it was Zapdos that ended up, I think, winning that exchange overall, and was able to set up the back row. Vitor's, I think, back row was able to take out Shadow's back row. So
Yeah, surviving on that 1% with the Zapdos was pretty clutch too. The Jolteon comes in and being
that
fast.
was big. Yeah.
Yeah, it survives the knuckle, and then it just uses a T-Bolt. The Zapdos survives on 1%. Whenever you survive on 1%, it has to be a roll. But I don't know if that would have changed anything massively, just because,
I
like you
don't.
said, his back row was T-Tar in the back, and then you had a fire Pokemon in the front. Yes, it was fighting, but you have the Psychic Dragon. But he was using Flare Blitz into the Dragon type, which tells me he didn't really have anything for it. So
Right.
that tells me he wouldn't. Even if the T-Tar goes down, the Latios just cleans up, not to mention having Psychic as a move. So I think Vitor wins that regardless. But game 2 is where it got really interesting. He decides to switch it up because the original lead for Shadow was the Whimsicott Cobalion, obviously going for the beat up. But I actually think there was a moment where he could have gone for the beat up on turn 2 in game 1.
Yeah,
he decided not to go that route.
You decided to go for the D-Gleam there. I don't know if he expected it to just do more damage to the Dynamax Zapdos or what, because it really didn't do anything like that, the D-Gleam to either Pokemon. So I'm not really exactly sure why. The beat up seemed like it made more sense there, but like you mentioned, who are we to talk? We're the ones that got knocked out of the playoffs.
But at the same time, we can be critical based on facts and things like that, and I don't think we should ever shy away from what actually happened. Yes, we could be nice about things, right. But I think just being honest, doesn't matter if you won. If you make a misplay, I do think it was a misplay. I do think he could have won game 1 if he beat up that turn. He ended up winning in the end, but yeah. So this game 2, there was an adjustment. He decides to go out with the Dragonite because it's a little bit different of a look than the Cobalion. He still led it with the Whimsicott. He didn't. I don't think he got the Tailwind up. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
But yeah, it wasn't looking good for him. It actually looked like another round 2, entrance for Vitor. But it was just such a good play. He had the. I think turn 6 is really where it turned around because he had the Earthquake that took out the Torracat, and then the T-Tar was KO'd by the Power Whip, which actually completely turned things around because he only had one thing left in the back. And it was just like, oh, yeah, and the Latios is in the back, Mega Latios. You got Dragonite and you got Serena there. I don't think Latios is taking out both of them. So not to mention with Play Rough being revealed in turn 7. But I do think that Shadow ended up Dragon Clawing his way back. He just used it on the screen. That's why I said it. But yeah, so Shadow ends up taking game 2, which it was just like, hey, we got ourselves a game. Game 3, anything can happen, right? Mm-hmm. But game 3 starts, and sure enough, the go-to strategy gets off with the beat up, and Vitor just knew as soon as the beat up went off, it was. That's pretty much GG. I hate to say it like that.
Yeah, and then the Will-O-Wisp did miss. That was really when Vitor, you could see he threw out his early game GGs like he likes to do. Got the beat up and then no Will-O-Wisp, and it was just like, oh, this Cobalion kind of sweeps from here. But I mean, also he brought it back. I mean, Dynamax Regieleki, like you could tell from his team composition and the way he used Regieleki in the first couple games that it wasn't really a Dynamax candidate for him necessarily, but it's so freaking powerful that it's just like as a pickup Hail Mary, like it's not the worst. I mean, you Dynamax it, now you have electric terrain. I don't even care if it's Electro Web you're using. Like
it's still 110 base power, but that transistor ability is just No, and then the terrain goes up, boosted another 50%. It's just when that Cobalion survived Game 4, because the Aleki Dynamaxed and then Max Lightning that Cobalion, I went, oh, okay, and then it survives on what 9%. Yeah, survives on 9%, and then it's just like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. Then the Latios, I believe goes down. Yeah, it goes down. And then the rest, you do have a Dynamax late, and Aleki's really, really strong. So it wasn't over by any stretch. But when you have, Vitor actually pulled it back, to be completely honest.
Yeah,
he had Aleki Zapdos at the end facing Dragonite and Serena. This was the game deciding turn. Well, actually, no, he just stalled out Tailwind. So double protect ends the Tailwind. But turn 7 is where the match was. And I want to talk about this one specifically because this is where I feel that Shadow played incredibly well, and I want to applaud him on this because I was watching this late last night as the game went, and you see Zapdos Aleki on the field with your Serena Dragonite on the field. What are you thinking? You're thinking Aleki gets to kill the Dragonite with a super effective attack, and then Zapdos kills the Serena, right? So you chalk that up as a loss in that time. So what you do is you ask yourself, how do I win here? What is my win condition? And his win condition was getting that Zapdos off the field before the Serena went down, because Aleki does not kill Serena in any universe. Like
Right.
I don't think it does. If somebody knows,
Electric
comment
Train was
down
up,
below.
but Electric Train was up. I mean, you can make a case, but it would have been Serena probably wins that matchup.
Yeah, exactly. With Eliki being as frail as it is and things like that. But so what happens here? So the Eliki, I believe, attacks the protect from the Serena just to protect it from dying. And then the Dragonite goes off and KOs that Zapdos, which actually I believe was a roll. Oh my god. The first
I think
attack
so.
on Dual Wing Beat, now that I see it, did 19%. And it left him with 28% left. And then his second
that's not a
Dual
roll.
Wing Beat does 28%.
Because of the Koba Bear. The first one was proc the Koba Bear.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
must read.
They,
I must read.
yeah. Each
So,
one
yeah,
would have
it
done
was
that.
going down anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have died. But hey, again, Dual Wing Beat is not
Also, I
100%
mean, something
accurate
else to
either.
keep in mind, and comes back to prep too. Zapdos was slower than a lot of things than I expected it to be slower than. Dragonite being one of them.
Ooh, that does change things. I wonder what he probably attacked the Serena slot anyway, though. I would imagine.
Probably. I mean, I imagine that as well. But it is interesting that there's something I remember game one too that it was slower than uh, something else that I expected it to be faster than. Um, and so yeah, I mean, also seeing like a Electroweb coming out there could have helped too. But I mean, you're right. I think he goes into the Serena slot, which protected anyway. But it was interesting to see him stall out the tailwind and still be slower. So
Yeah, I bet he wasn't expecting to be slower in that situation because stalling it out wouldn't have really done a whole lot if that's what the game plan was.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to address that turn specifically because Shadow saw his win condition, got it, and that Dragonite didn't just barely survive. It ate that hit pretty good.
Yep.
Like it survived 22% left. It was close, obviously, but it was calculated and he ended up winning. But I think that was probably the biggest upset, I would say, because Vitor being a perennial.
Championship
Because it's
team.
not an annual season, but he's in the finals every single season. This is the only time he hasn't done it
Right.
since he's come in the league. So I bet Shadow's on super high right now. I imagine he would be from the win. I would be if I knocked out such a really good player like that. But I think Shadow's making a name for himself this season for sure. Now he's, he was one of the lower teams in the standings in the first couple seasons he was a part of it, and now he's right in the mix of things and he's top 4.
Right. And keep look at that. If you are a team that has struggled or has this last season ended at the bottom of the standings, like it doesn't take long. It can take one. Shadow won one game last season, and here he is in the semis. So you can turn it around that fast. Have a good draft and play well, and you'll be right there too. It doesn't always take like several seasons to get there.
If it could happen to him, it can happen to you. Da
That's
da
right.
da da. Anyway. So that'll do it for our recaps, but we are going to do something a little bit different right now. We're going to take a quick break because we have to take a quick break, and I can make up something, but
Be back
I don't think it
after
matters
these
in the end.
messages.
We'll be back for another cartoon. All right, we're back.
We're back.
Like we said, we'd be back.
Yes.
We didn't have to come back, but we did.
We got the hard stuff out of the way already, so I guess we had no excuses to not come back.
That's got to be a form of some sort of time travel because our viewers and everyone listening, not viewers, our listeners, only experience like 5 seconds, and we experience a lot longer than 5 seconds.
More than 5 seconds. That's all we're gonna say.
Yeah, that was a short break. It was like 5 seconds. Yeah, we needed it. Very important. I'm fresh. I'm fresh and ready to go now.
That's right.
That 5-second break, much needed. Hey, so where do we leave off? I guess we just finished talking about what happened. Now let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what's going to happen and who's going to win. And we have no idea. But we're going to talk about it, though. Where does that leave us from the matches last week? So that leaves us with matches of Space City PC versus Spider Phantom Troop, a.k.a. Slick 36. representing the Spider Phantom Troop. And then that also leaves us on the red side equals better side is Great Marsh Gastrodons versus Distortion Zone.
The red side being the upset side, at least from a seed perspective. So you got seeds 6 and 7.
Yeah. That's such a blue
half.
side thing to say. But you literally couldn't be more blue side with what you just said.
That's right.
My goodness. So I guess we could talk about Space City versus Slick. I don't know how you don't pick Space City based on how he's played all season as the favorite, but without even looking at anything, you just have to pick him, right?
I mean, I agree. I mean, his team is just a well-oiled machine at this point, and
I like that. That was good. That was good coverage.
I mean, he hits you from so many different ways in the same match. Even his team is so good this season. I mean, which we knew it from the beginning. I mean, we talked about the Finny, the Metagross together, the Talonflame, the Slurpuff, like the Umbreon. I mean, just the whole team is just.
He's got Umbreon. That's a win.
Every piece of his team is filling out a very needed role, and it's working. All of it.
Yes, I agree. I look at Space City PC's team, and I just see a very nice, most roles, if not all roles, filled. I'm not sure the way to beat his team is maybe in a slow mode if you have a really good one, which I actually think that maybe Spider Phantom Troop does.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the way to do it. Like Lurantis looks pretty good, actually, just looking at on paper. And you can also run things a little bit slower than normal. Like Oranguru looks pretty good going into Metagross and things like that. Yeah, it does get Max Lightning and stuff like that to hit it back, but when your stab is unresisted and doesn't activate policy against Metagross, that could be really nice, especially on the special side, which Metagross is maybe slightly weaker. But I do think there are pieces on the Spider Phantom Troop side that can take that stuff out. Like as I mentioned, the Lurantis kind of takes care of that Finny. The Wishy-Washy might have a pretty good matchup against the Metagross, depending on how it's set up, things like that. But I just think that both teams look pretty good. I would obviously give the edge to the team that has had more success, and not to mention has more than one game experience this season playing. I gave you the edge last week just because he hasn't played, right? So how long do you bet against the guy that hasn't played? I think he's been playing Pokemon. It's not like he hasn't been playing, but Draft League is a little bit different. So I think Octo being a part of the team as well, just kind of saying like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, blah, 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 and let's work together. I think that's definitely adding value for this matchup. But I do think there's a lot of shenanigery, if that's a word, on...
It is now.
It is now. We're going to go with it. Spider Phantom Troop side has a lot of shenanigery that I believe that can be done, that we've seen a bit of.
Right.
As for Space City PC's time, it's almost just like, it's just so good. Like, what's going to beat you, and I don't know if you could stop it.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I do think that Space does have some tricks up his sleeves that he hasn't revealed yet, but in part because he hasn't had to, and I don't know when or if he ever will need to. The way that his straight up beat you, role just beats you. Like, I mean, we haven't seen Soak from Finny with Raikou. He has shenanigery and stuff, but like, he hasn't needed to use it. And I think that's almost more scary. The fact that he just even flat out hasn't even tried.
Well, the really. Slurpuff is a little shenanigans. Shenanigans. That's partakes in the act of shenanigans.
Yes.
Look it up. It's in the dictionary.
It's in the WPL dictionary.
Yeah. It's we got a bunch of words in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're in agreement here that Space Cities is one of those that until somebody actually forces his hand, you can't really bet against him
at all. No.
But I mean, on the flip side, a team, the combination of Slick and Octo together manning the Spider Phantom Troop, I could see them coming out with some cool stuff and throwing space off and sneaking a win here too.
It's kind of unfair if you think about it. 2 versus 1. Maybe the owner should step in. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
not...
Except then you have some collusion, claims about last year too. So do you really want to get involved in that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not helping, so no one's gonna win. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, this match is just going to be, it's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen, but I could just kind of look at the matchups and I kind of see what stands out for me. Like, obviously Metagross, like I'm trying to look at just the one side, like what can handle that Metagross. Cinderace does have a decent matchup against it.
Yes.
Togekiss, I think, kind of loses 1v1. Gengar could do a decent chunk being faster and hitting it really, really hard on the special side. So there are things, but maybe Metagross isn't the answer. Maybe Finny is the answer.
Right.
Like maybe Finny goes off, and I don't see, like, yeah, Lurantis is there, but I think maybe going the Finny route might be the better way to go, because like what else on his team really hits Finny hard? If
yeah,
you
I mean,
really think about it.
Gengar hits it hard, but can't
the
match,
poison,
but
yeah.
it hits it hard at least.
Like playing to a win condition, just being like, I'm just going to take out that Gengar, and then Finny just comes in the back and just runs things. Who knows? Togedemaru does hit it kind of hard as well.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe this is the week we see Togedemaru get one of the wins, right? But I don't see it. I don't see as many answers for Finny as I do for Metagross, so maybe that might be the way. Not sure what he's going to go with. I don't think we're giving away any secrets. You just look at type matchups. It's like, in Sword and Shield, it's like Hop. It's like, wow, you've got your type matchups down. Wow, you've really been studying.
Right.
Stupid.
God. Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, I do think when you always definitely have to look at the major threats on the other person's team roster in general, and I don't think prep goes much further in the beginning of the early stages of prep without looking at Finny Metagross right off the bat. Like, what are my answers for it? I have to bring something. So I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Lurantis stays home this week. I think it has to come.
Yeah,
I don't know how it doesn't. Like, not to mention superpowering that Umbreon is another counter for another major threat as well. So maybe Talonflame has brought as a result. Maybe Metagross is coming because it doesn't hit it super, super hard. Like, Tangrowth is like really, really good on the defensive side. So as a wall, like there's so many ways. Like the chess match begins, doesn't it? Where you just kind of go. Like, I actually asked that question quite a bit, and a lot of the times I was right. It was more just, okay, who has to come this week? Like, he has no answer for this other than this. So this has to come, right? And sometimes you swing and a miss, right? I had a couple guys face me this season that were like, I can't believe he didn't bring this. I'm like, well, I didn't know. I don't even know.
Right.
But being unpredictable is a thing. But at the same time, there's a reason S tiers are S tiers.
Yeah.
Right. Because
even
excellent.
down to, you're looking at like maybe a terrain war breaking out. One of the great things with Finny Metagross is that Finny protects Metagross from being burned with the Misty Surge. But you make Indeedee slow, and or bring it in the back, and you change the terrain to Psychic Terrain, and then now you get Will-O-Wisp opportunity as well. So I could see I mean, at this point in the season, you're bringing out everything. You're bringing out all the stops.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, to stop the terrain, like, especially if you're going to, like, making a slow one, if he's relying on, say, Misty Seed, like he's done earlier in the season, not a lot, but he does, you actually set the terrain last if you're slower. So, if you're going to lead it and he's going to lead that, you just lead your Psychic Terrain. If you're slower, then your terrain goes off last and he doesn't get a seed boost, right?
Right.
Or there could be, hey, I'll just use your terrain and I'll bring a seed for your terrain, right? I've seen that too, and things like that. Speed War. I just think Space City has so many options on his team, but you also see a lot of speed control on Spider Phantom's side as well with Cottony. Yep. So I don't see a crazy amount of ways of stopping Cottony from doing Cottony things. Yeah, and Oranguru is just so bulky too, right? So like I think Oranguru makes things fun. I think that might be the primary Trick Room setter on the team, when it comes to setting things up. That depends if the Lurantis is the way to go. A lot of the times at face value, you look at a matchup and you're just like, yeah, I think this is the best option. Then you try it, you're like, oof, nope.
That didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work at all. But again, like that's why it takes longer than just one session, right? Like you find out so much throughout the week, and you're just like, oof, I didn't know that. It's a good thing I.
Yeah, that's why you don't prep the night before.
You don't prep the night before because so many things can happen, especially for a playoff match. You prep as long as humanly possible.
Right.
But yeah, I like Wishy Washy this week. I like Lurantis this week. I like Cottony this week. I like. Cinderace could work. Togekiss is always a good staple. Indeedee, like you said, looks good as well, and potentially Togedemaru. I think that's 6. But you do need a way of setting Trick Room, so maybe the Indeedee, maybe the Oranguru in its place. Who knows? But I'll leave that up to the coaches who actually win. unlike us, Jay.
Some of us.
We did. Not some of us, all of us. We both lost. Okay, you need to give yourself more credit. You don't suck. It's like, wait, what? That was awfully sneaky of you.
Were you talking to yourself again, Jay?
Yeah, very shenanigrous of myself. Yeah, so that's that matchup. I just think, so based on how we've kind of talked about this matchup so far, clearly based on rosters, we're already trying to find ways of stopping the better team, and I think that Space City, just from the way we've been talking about it, I think definitely has the edge, because we're sitting there like, is there any way he could stop it? And we found a couple of ways. Now it's a matter of like who's going to win the chess match, and is it enough? Is there a way that Metagross can beat those counters? Is there a way that Finny can beat if Finny does get Ice Beam? So the games begin. It's like, okay, are you going to run Assault Vest, or are you going to run Yachi Berry, or are you going to run Rindo Berry on your like exchanging blows? So that's why Draft League's so much fun, is because it's not just who beats who in one-on-one, and it's like, well, it depends. There are so many things. Who's on the field, when they come on the field. Like for example, there are some matchups where it's like, as a lead, if this is on the field the same as this, when the lead happens, this Pokemon wins. But if it comes on the field too late, now I've got, say for example, Boost. Maybe I've got Friend Guard. Maybe I've got other ways. I've Dynamax before you've gotten on the field, right? That could be another thing. Now you can't switch in.
Yeah, I mean, even just look at like speed control. Like, yeah, this is a plus matchup, but only if I go first. Whether it's in Trick Room, whether it's Shiny Tailwind Up, whatever it is. Like, I beat you 1-on-1, but only if I get that Max Quake off first, or that Max Steel Spike off first, whatever it happens to be. And yeah, so there's so many different ways these matches can go, and
yep,
that's why Draft League's easily the best.
Easily by far the best. Nothing compares to it. But right. It's completely different. Yeah. But you can definitely tell that some of the VGC players, like, they transfer their success on the VGC ladder and stuff like that to Draft League. But some guys can't do it. They're just like, it's a different animal. So yeah. But I think we can probably move on to the next match. Great Marsh versus Distortion. This one, I actually am more excited about this one. Nothing against the first matchup, because I think Great Marsh has, well, I don't even know who has a better team. I couldn't even tell you. I've been saying that Distortion's had such a good roster all season, which I still think he does. Even looking at it now, I'm like, man, there's just so many different ways, different threats. And then you've got Great Marsh's team that's just top to bottom. It just kind of, they both have Slowbro. So is this Slowbro versus Brobro, or Slowbro versus Slowbro?
Yep. Which I think is what happened in the first time they played each other this season.
Oh yeah, who won that game? Was it Great Marsh?
Great Marsh won it, yeah.
How did that go? I know, I'm just Jay, look yourself. Do you remember which week it was?
It was week 2. It was very early in the season. Went to a game 3.
Oh, it did.
That's all I remember. I mean, their teams have changed drastically since then, so.
They have, and I think that's when Shadow started making a lot of his moves as well, and I think Great Marsh made his a couple weeks later, so so we'll have to definitely see who shows up that week. I know that's really lame to say, but I think if somebody's off, we've seen both players have bad weeks, and things like that. But I think Distortion's definitely knocked off the better player. Like obviously him knocking off Vitor is a little higher of an accomplishment of him knocking off myself. So I think that who's hotter right now, the guy that knocked off the potential champion or the favorite, or the guy that hasn't lost in a long time?
Well, I mean, even you look at other than week 6 when just Shadow lost to Vitor, uh, he was 5-1 down the back half, down the last 6 games of the season.
Who is this? This is
Shadow.
Shadow's 5-1. That's wow.
Shadow was 5-1 in the last 5 weeks of the season, only losing to Vitor, and then he overcame that and beat Vitor. So
holy crap! I had no idea. I thought he was playing well. I didn't think he was 5-1. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, so you got, both of them. You could say both of them were 5-1 to end the season.
Wow. Who's I don't even know who's hotter then.
Oh, sorry. No, actually, no, because Great Marsh is 4-2 to end the season. So now, Great Marsh ended with 4 straight wins, but yeah, you could actually make it. You can make a very compelling case that Shadow is actually the hotter team right now than Great Marsh, which is crazy to say.
I knew this match was going to be really, really good. But just looking at the matchup side by side now, like I'm obviously on Distortion Zone's team. The main threat is the beat up Cabalion, the beat up from the Whimsicott onto the Cabalion. Like just looking at Great Marsh's team, like he does have Indeedee female, so I think that's 100. Like if he doesn't bring it, then the beat up strat goes off and he loses. Like there's no question the Indeedee's going to show up this week. The Spectrier would be kind of. I don't know if it looks good or not, but like if you look at the Dragonite, like obviously ice attacks are definitely going to hurt it the most. So or rock Gigalith might be better.
I could definitely see Burns being a thing. Yeah, Stoutland's in the sand with things like After You and stuff. Like, yeah, we're kind of spitballing here, but I think Shadow. We've been talking about it for a while. Shadow is one of the best teams, best rosters.
Well, I think it's Whimsicott just does things that no one else's Pokemon do. Like it's Prankster Tailwind. I don't even see Tailwind on Great Marsh's team, so maybe Trick Room's the way to go. I was right. Like a lot of the time, Spectrier is so good because it's base 200 speed, or sorry, base 130, so it gets up to 200, which is faster than most things on anyone's teams, really. So, and that's one of the reasons why I had such a hard time with it in prep. But when you have Prankster Tailwind, it's no longer really an issue. Like, so do you focus hash it? Do you, like your Will-O-Wisp user is just going to get destroyed turn 1 if you're not careful, right? But I do think he definitely has the tools to do it. Like, he didn't really show a lot of his hand last week in round 1 against me, so he might even just be like, oh, I'll just bring some of the tricks I had in the back, as another option, right?
Yep.
As Shadow probably showed the majority of his Pokemon, I think he might have used 5 of the 6 last week. So, but I don't think that really matters when it comes down to it. I think when you're two good players facing each other, I think you develop strategies that work, and no one has any idea what's coming. And if you do know what's coming, it's very, very hard to stop. Predictability sometimes is just too good, too predictable, and too good to stop, right? It's like, I see your beat up Cabalion. I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it. Like,
yeah.
What do you do?
No, I think, yeah. I imagine Great Marsh has to go. Because I would say that's the one weakness of Shadow's team is it doesn't have a good slow mode.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Shadow's going to try to stop the slow mode. Whimsicott works in slow mode.
It's one of the best Trick Room setters in the game.
We're going to move on past that ridiculous comment. And Slowbro's good, but like Slowbro's really, I guess in Drampa are really his main Trick Room options. And so I would definitely say that Great Marsh has more options in Trick Room.
Yeah, one of the things that Shadow does have going for him, or the Distortion Zone has going, is he does have a few ways to stop Trick Room from happening with Prankster Taunt, with Taunt on a few other things. Like Cabalion can be used in a support role. Serena also gets Taunt. You got a couple of Imprison users. You have a couple of ways of playing in Trick Room as well. So you know what I mean? Like, it might be, hey, I'll beat him in Trick Room, and that's, hey, who knows? Maybe he just does, well, I'm going to bring my fast mode, and it can beat his fast mode, so I'm just gonna do it. But I think both players prep fairly well. They put in the time, and you can definitely tell that there's a method to the madness on the field when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like when it comes down to Great Marsh's mode, I do think his slow mode is so good that would probably be my guess on how to go and an intimidate user. He's got 2 of them. I think like, yeah, you've got to inner focus on that Dragonite, but intimidating the Blaziken, intimidating the Cobalion, the Serena, things like that, I think can be really important as well. Not to mention he doesn't have any way to stop the intimidate as well, like with, say, Defiant or competitive, things like that. So, like, I do see that, but I also think Distortion has a Whimsicott.
Yes.
You know, I just think that if you have Whimsicott on your team, there is a giant mystery that your opponent can't plan for. Like what? Okay, I'm gonna plan for Taunt, Tailwind, Charm, Moonblast. I'm gonna plan for Helping Hand. I gotta make sure he might have Protect on him. It's just
Fake Tears.
He could have Trick Room to reverse it. I might have already said Trick Room. He's got Fake Tears as an option. Okay, maybe he can Tickle. It's just like we're at 8 moves already.
Right.
You know, it's just that's one of the cool things about Whimsicott and why it's probably one of the best Pokemon in Draft League, in my opinion. Actually, you know what? No, I'm just going to make a crazy statement like these guys do on the air all the time. Best Pokemon ever. Best Pokemon ever. No, second to none.
It's hard to argue with that. Yeah, I mean, especially if Shadow makes it to the finals, I mean, you say Whimsicott was on both final squads the last 2 seasons.
Ooh, I'm rooting for Whimsicott. Forget Shadow. I'm not rooting for him. I'm rooting for Whimsicott. Oh man, yeah. I think this matchup's just going to be really good. I don't know what's going to happen because Great Marsh has never made it past the first round other than this season. Maybe this is the floodgates just opening.
Right.
He's just a man on a mission. But you could also say that about Distortion Zone. Like he's had not just a better season than he's ever had, but by far a better season than he's ever had. Like he's playing the best Pokemon he's ever played. So again, who's the hottest? You can make an argument for both. Yeah, I just see 2 very, very well. Actually, we got weather on both sides too. Ninetales and Gigalith, which I didn't notice as well. So, are we going to see some new strats? Or are we going to see the same old things and just kind of going toe to toe? Who knows? Tune in this week. We got our matches actually posted in the channel. I actually saw earlier today. Actually, we got one going on Friday. If anybody, we actually don't normally know when these are happening, so this is actually pretty nice. Like we've got Great Marsh versus the Distortion Zone going Friday at what's that Eastern time?
It would be
6 Eastern time.
6 Eastern. Yep.
Right at dinner time. Thanks, guys. I'm an adult. I can choose when my own dinner is. That's cool. Yeah, 6 o'clock Eastern time.
Space versus Slick going Sunday, of course, at looks like 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's after dinner.
That's about as late as you could possibly go.
Yeah, that's considerate, man. Well, not as late as this week. It was 11, right? No, 10:30.
Yeah, I can't remember. I wasn't able to watch it live. I was trick or treating, so.
Well, where'd you put your kids in daycare or something, or?
No, they were my.
They were the
candy
ones that were
gatherers.
trick or treat. Oh, okay.
They were the ones getting the candy for me to eat.
Oh yeah, minions. I forgot. That's just a smarter way.
My son last night goes, do you know that there's a 90% chance that your parents will steal your Halloween candy? And I was like,
no, there's
90.
100%.
Right, 100. That's what I told him.
Buddy,
I was like,
you're naive.
Yeah, that's happening.
Son. You just go, son. Yeah, you keep thinking 90%. You'll be lucky if you have any candy left, bud. But yeah, that's that. So those are the 2 matchups. We don't have a whole lot to kind of go through when it comes to matchups. There's only 2. But so that's it for the week. As for the teams that are not playing in matches, we do have a little bit of news for you guys. Let's start creating some hype. We got season 5 coming up. Yay!
Yay!
Jay, now we have something to do.
Oh yeah, that's right. I thought we were done prepping. I have to prep for.
Yeah, I got a few things I got to take care of, but yeah, but I'm definitely going to be open if anybody is looking for ideas to bounce off of and things like that when it comes to drafting your team. I feel like that's one of my stronger parts of Draft League rather than actually playing and prepping and things like that. I believe that drafting and planning your draft is probably one of my stronger features. So if you wanted to bounce an idea off me or ask for advice, I'm always down for it. I try to give the least, what's the word I'm looking for? The least, I don't know. I want to help everybody and not tell anybody else and reveal things to everybody else. But at the same time, I don't want to withhold strategies from one person because I gave it to another and things like that. So I do the best I can and balance it. I definitely don't screw anybody when it comes to their plans and things like that. So, but I don't know. As a commissioner of the league, I try to help everybody. I have no, I don't really care who does what, other than everyone does well.
That's right.
Didn't know where I was going with that, Jay. Kind of crashed and burned at the end.
It's like, I'm just gonna let him ride this one out.
He's just like, stop talking. Stop. Jay, stop. Anyway, important dates. What are the important dates? So season 5. By the way, I guess first off, if you have not messaged me and told me you're playing, message me and tell me you're playing. I think I've already reached out to most of you, but anyone listening, I think we might even have 1 or 2 slots left. I think maybe 1. We do have a couple of new guys from the other server that have hopped over and said that they wanted to play as well, which is very, very cool. And we have a couple guys like, unfortunately, Vitor, what's his team name? Sapello Extra Drills. Wow. He hasn't played enough for me to remember the name. Now he's been around since the beginning. He will be representing the WPL in the All-Star Draft League starting in the new year. So good luck to him. I think everybody's pretty confident in his ability and representing us the best that we could possibly do. I think he's just consistently one of the best players we have. This season, he kind of fell short, but at the same time, I don't think that diminishes anything he's capable of. No. But so unfortunately, he won't be playing in the WPL next season, but we'll be back the following season.
That sounds fortunately to me.
Oh yeah, for everybody still playing. No, he'll be around. I'm sure he'll be kicking around. So I guess it's fortunately because other people get a chance to win. Actually, this season we have 4 new chances to win.
Yep.
No one's won so far, so we get a new champion. We get a new star next to someone's name in the Discord, which is kind of nice. It's nice a little bit.
Does Slick get the star then? I suppose.
Hey, I would probably say so. Just you win the most important matches of the season. That's definitely a conversation to be had. But maybe because I do give a roll at the end of the season. I do throw a roll on saying season 3 champion, season 4 champion, things like that. So maybe I can do season 3 champion with an asterisk or something like that, or I can just do, or say
we'll
like
figure that out.
Yeah, we can figure. That's just very small, but he's got to get the job done, right? So we'll worry about that when it actually happens. But that's actually a good point. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, message me. Let me know you're playing. If you're unsure if you've told me or not, message me anyway. The worst I can say is, bud, you already told me. I got you.
Hey Jay, I'm playing next season.
The slots are full.
So, okay, and just make sure
we got no room. we got no room for everybody else that wants to play.
Jay's like, and we have another slot open now.
Yeah, we got another slot open. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Important dates. I think I threw it in the announcements folder. So we've got the draft lottery is going to take place on November 27th, 2021 at 2 p.m. I'm going to do something cool like I did last time. I'm going to do the presentation, the YouTube premiere, and it's a Saturday like we usually do it on, so hopefully I won't be on the golf course on the end of November. That would be kind of silly, like I was last time. So I'll be able to join you guys and kind of see your reactions and things like that and see how upset you guys are with your draft selections, which I just get a kick out of because I don't care. Season 5, the live draft is going to be on Saturday, December 11th of this year at 1 p.m. That accommodates people from all across the world. We do have an Australian actually being in this draft as well. So I would have to check to see what time it is at 1 p.m. over there. But again, this is when it is. I don't know what to say. You could have someone draft in your name. That's cool too. Just give them a list. Actually, I can do it too because it's technically on draft-league.nl. WPL is now on the website, so the draft will actually be no longer Discord based. like we did in the past 4 seasons. Actually, we did it very, very manual, very, very analog style, which is fun. It's just a little extra on me, but I think that the website does a good job in arranging that, and you actually can't pick anything incorrectly, which is really nice. So that makes things go a little bit smoother. So if you haven't, I sent everybody that I know is playing already a message reaching out to Automathic. I believe that I sent the link for him as well. If you don't know how to connect with him and things like that, I can definitely help. Reach out to me and I can get you set up on the website. It's not something you could do on your own. You think it would be, but it's a very specific website that they want to control how many members they have and things like that. So message me, ask me how to get on. It is literally the only prerequisite other than just like don't be a twat and things like that. So we definitely need that done as soon as possible. This is very, very important. So I'd say by the end of the season, guys, we got 2 weeks left. Get this to me. I don't want to be scrambling at the last second to get all this in. So get it in now, and then you lock your spot in. Week 1 of the season, Monday, January 3rd. So we're going to start right after the New Year. So it gives everyone a little bit of a Christmas hangover, New Year's hangover, things like that. But remember, January 3rd is just the first day you can play. You don't have to play a game right after New Year's. You can play the following weekend, like everybody does on Sunday at 10 p.m. Things like that. But yeah, I believe we have 1 or 2 slots left. If you're listening to this, I'd love to have you guys, because I'm actually taking a season off just because I need some time to kind of set up both leagues and things like that. I've got a lot of promo stuff to do, a lot of setup to do, and a lot of maintenance to do, just regular maintenance. So we're going to see how that goes for me. I look to play in the future, but as of right now, I will need a season off. But yeah, especially after my exit, I definitely want to redeem myself a little bit. So itching to play, man, itching to play. But yeah, Automathic, you got to set up. So just to give you guys a heads up, the tiers are actually available on, if you guys wanted to get a head start on next season, season 5, if you've already locked in your spot, saying you're playing, yada, yada, you've already messaged Automathic, that's cool. Now you can actually go on and check out the tiers. And we've already finished the tiering for season 5. The format is going to be no Dynamax. Weird. Everyone's really scared. Everyone just went. You mean no Dynamax or just out of Dynamax? Like what do you mean? No, 0. You cannot Dynamax. It is old format, new Pokemon.
Yes.
So
which I'm excited for, because honestly, I've never played in a format with no Dynamax. So
me neither.
We'll see how bad I am.
We all dipped in it a little bit when we were, in other, just playing the game, right? Before Dynamax was around, older games, we just did it. But when it comes to competitive doubles with no Dynamax, it's definitely going to be different. So, which is actually, we're going to get to what does this mean? What's more valuable, what's not? And we've definitely reflected some of those changes and what we feel is going to be better and worse in the tiering as well. So, for example, Gmax Colossal with weakness policy is no longer Gmax Colossal with weakness policy. It is now quite average, and
quite average Colossal.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It just anyway. We'll give the reasoning why, but yeah, check out the tiers if you want to get a head start on it. We're not throwing it in the Discord right now, but you will have a link that's sent to you once you set up with Automathic, showing what your link is to log in to check out your team, to check out the tiers, to check out your schedule, to check out the draft day. Actually is literally the most important thing. So we'll definitely need you to get it set up on that, and then check out the tiers, see what you think, kind of start developing your draft plan. I wouldn't recommend going in cold. Some guys do that, but I do believe that it's better planning out what you want first, what's the most sought after Pokemon that people usually draft early, what can you get later, and I think that really determines what's a successful and I don't want to say failure, that's kind of harsh. What a failure of a draft.
A going to make your life difficult draft.
yeah, you're just gonna be missing pieces at the end. Like if you care, great. If you don't care, well, you're probably not gonna do great. But but yeah, you will be missing rolls. Like you can't just wing it and then be like, yeah, I've got my fake out user, got an intimidate user, I got all my typing, I've got all my physical matchups, my double. You can't do it all at once.
Yeah.
Especially with one of the cool things about doing the draft on the website too, on the Draft League NL website, is actually you can pick your Pokemon that you want to draft. Say it's your turn, you're the first overall pick. Great. You make your selection, boom, it's in. The next pick is now going. While you're waiting, you can actually select your next pick already. And you just leave it. You don't even have to be logged into the website. I'd recommend you stick around and have it open because, you want to be around. But you can pick something there and leave it as your next pick. And then if it's not taken, when your pick comes around again, it automatically picks it immediately. And you don't have to be there for that, which is really, really neat. But if you get sniped, it's not going to be there, so definitely pay attention. I don't know how many you can put in there as reserves. I think I heard something that you can put a couple. So, I want this, but if this is gone, I want this. So it picks what you want, right off the bat. And it definitely keeps in mind the tiers and points and things like that. So it's actually a really nice website. So, but Jay, I wanted to ask you, I've been doing a lot of talking about Season 5 info.
I've been doing a lot of listening.
What is better and what is worse in this format with no Dynamax, and why?
That's a good question. The first things that come to my mind is better. I would say one thing that's better would be terrain and weather setters, I think, in general. One thing that Dynamax does is it makes weather and terrain more volatile. Just because you set up the sun doesn't mean somebody's not about to just use a max rockfall and turn off your sun right away. And there's only a certain number of Pokemon that have abilities that do it. Not to say that people aren't going to run things like Rain Dance or Sunny Day or Hail on their Pokemon, but it definitely makes it harder. It's going to be a lot harder to change weather and terrains. I would say that's one of the things that I think is going to be much more interesting in that standpoint. I would say something that is worse. The first thing that comes to my mind, you mentioned it with the Colossal. I think weakness policy in general becomes a lot worse.
By weakness policy?
There's because you're going to be doing a chunk to whatever you're trying to proc a policy on. And
in most cases.
And also, not to mention, one of the great things about the weakness policy is that, if you Dynamax that weakness policy mon, it's hard to kill them. And so they're almost guaranteed to last a couple of turns with that increased attack. If you proc your own weakness policy and they just double into it and that mon is gone all of a sudden, it isn't going to be as helpful. So I think weakness policy right. I don't necessarily think weakness policy is 100% gone. I think there's probably a handful of Pokemon that could still use it. Metagross is probably still one that you could run weakness policy
anything
on.
tanky.
Right. Especially tanky, slow, and then also you're able to get Trick Room up, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, weakness policy is going to be
drastically
much
less.
worse. Yes.
Maybe even 5% of what it was.
And you're talking about in a Dynamax format. I mean, you can almost guarantee something every single week that your opponent has is going to be have weakness policy on it. I mean, obviously not every week, but there's a lot of times where you look at someone's team and you're like, okay,
who's got
where
it?
do I think the weakness policy is? And he may not have it, but
it's like Sash.
If he has it, exactly. Who has the Sash this game? Who has weakness policy this game? And I think. So I think that you're going to see a lot less of that, at least.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think weather and terrain with the lack of max moves, like Dynamax moves and buffing, I think anything that buffs a max airstream is one of the most valuable moves in the entire game, in my opinion. So does Tailwind get better? Does say Cotton Sport get better? Scary Face, are we going to see a lot of that?
Yep.
Like you said,
or Electroweb.
Struggle Bug?
Electroweb,
yeah. I agree. Yeah, like for example, you're not going to see Max Knuckles. You're not going to see, you don't see a lot of Max Oozes, but a common strat was Max Steel Spike and then Body Press. Right?
Yeah.
We're not going to see a lot of that anymore. There's a lot of abilities that definitely don't affect Dynamax Pokemon. Like for example, in my opinion, the most valuable Pokemon in the entire format this season is going to be Urshifu.
Yeah.
Urshifu Unseen Fist. It just goes straight through Protect. You can't protect. You can't do anything about it. It's coming. Dynamax when you max
Sheer
guard.
Force Mons. Sheer Force Mons. I think
Sheer Force is another thing. Like Skill Swap is another thing that you can't, Skill Swap. There's a lot of fun things you could do with Skill Swap, but unfortunately in a Dynamax format, you can't Skill Swap a Dynamax Mon to do it, to give them an ability they don't want.
Right.
So that's another cool thing too. Fake Out is going to be massive.
Fake Out's going to be huge. Yep.
Which also means, as a direct result, Inner Focus, stopping Fake Out, right?
Yeah.
Like those things, like they're not as big of a deal in previous formats that we've done in the WPL, and not to mention on the ladder. I know we just had Series 10 that didn't have Dynamax as an option with legendaries. So we've already seen like Mienshao, Wide Guard has been so prominent across a lot of teams, things like that. Like Inner Focus is just massive. So a Pokemon that gets Fake Out and Inner Focus, invaluable.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Kangaskhan. Go draft your Kangaskhan, guys.
Kangaskhan's really good. I think so. Like things that have dropped in the tiers like massively. One was Lapras, just plummeted. Like what's a Lapras gonna do now? Like it doesn't have access to the Aurora Veil. Like I think it still gets Aurora Veil. It just doesn't have a way of using the Gmax resonance, right?
Right. And also on top of that, like it was a good weakness policy mon, because it doesn't have the highest attack. So you're like, okay, it's already super bulky. Now let me give it some offense. So you won't have that option anymore either.
Yep, I agree. All those prominent mons, just look up Series 9, because that's basically what we're doing. Series 9 with no Dynamax. Anything that was used across the board that were major Dynamax mons, they're definitely not as good as they were, 100%. Especially if they're your main Dynamax candidate, they can't be as good as they were, right? Because like if they were great, you didn't have to Dynamax it. Like I think Glacier, for example, is still good. I think it's great, but having its main damaging move in Icicle Crash being 85% accurate, is it still as good? Like a Pokemon's Max Knuckle, it was coming from Superpower. Is it still as good? Because now when you use it once, you get that attack drop, right?
Right.
Like the Draco Meteor, Max Dragon, I'll just run Draco. Now you're getting the attack drop, the special attack drop when you use it. So there are so many things to consider. So pretty much all we're really getting at is it's going to be different.
Things are going to be different, and I'll be curious to see who can adjust and who. I'm curious if I'm going to be able to adjust. Like I said, I haven't played in this kind of format before, so I'm excited. I'm excited for the challenge, though.
Well, actually, if anyone's even listening, if anyone's even listening right now, comment down below if you guys want. I can actually make a video on certain things that I would find valuable, like when it comes to specific Pokemon and why. I can actually make a video. I haven't made a whole lot of content this season because I've been playing and running the podcast with Jay here. It's been pretty time consuming. I'm actually shocked we made the playoffs, dude. Not gonna lie. These things take a while. No, we hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast. Like we've only got 2 more weeks left of it, and then maybe some content we'll kind of throw at you. But let me know down below if you guys want content on something specific. We can make it if there's a demand for it. But I also think it'd be beneficial to kind of throw a video at you guys of like, hey, this is what I think. This is what I would draft. Hey, I'm not playing this season, so if I were drafting, that would be what the video is called.
Yep.
And I'll give all of Jay Tevis's strategies for everyone else to use.
I wouldn't expect anything less, Jay.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the Suscast. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks, Jay, for being a part of it. And
yes,
the countdown begins, man. Only 2 weeks to go.
Good luck to the remaining teams. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, except for the teams that beat us. Screw them. Right?
Agreed.
I mean, good luck. Bye. Bye, guys.
It's the World Pokemon League, #1 draft league you could ever see. Getting stronger, yeah, I'm building up